Everyone, it's Ross. Out here in the garden today, out here in the orchard today. I just turned 27, so today I'm doing all the things I love to do. And the other thing I'm doing that I love to do is making videos for you guys. So for today's video, I want to just tell you guys about a really interesting topic that gets a lot of interest and gets a lot of questions, especially after they find out that this is possible. So let me just show you guys rather than just talk about this. So what we have in front of me is 4 trees in the same hole. These are apple trees. I could zoom out a little bit here or back away a little bit just to give you guys a full picture of the size of these things. And I can come in close. They're really only 18 inches apart from each tree to each tree. And I think Dave Wilson Nursery was probably the first people to really make this idea popular. At least that's where I found out about it. I don't know who came out with the idea first. Kudos to them. But yeah, I think this is a really interesting topic once people find out this is like possible. As soon as I found out, I was immediately interested, because just like for a second here, just think about the possibilities of having 4 trees in the same hole. In fact, you don't even need to put them in the same hole. You can just plant trees 18 inches apart from each other in a row. And that would actually work, you know. There's people doing that in orchards nowadays to get really high density plantings and to decrease the labor and, you know, get more bang for your buck, I guess would be one way of saying it. But you know, it really does work. You know, and I want to talk to you guys about kind of the pitfalls of this and what could go wrong, what could go right, what you need to do and all that. Because so far for me it's working, and I'll show you later. I have a second planting actually on the other side of the house here, but I also have something really interesting going on over here that relates to this, which is even more incredible than this, I think. But if you think about why you would do this, let's just talk about why you would do something like this. Having 4 different varieties in the same hole, as an example, is a great way to have successive ripening for a backyard grower. I don't think a lot of commercial people would actually do this, but for someone that has a backyard that has limited space and wants to have apples throughout the whole season, or peaches throughout the whole season, or really just extend your harvest. You're not going to have peaches throughout the whole season, but to extend that harvest, because as a backyard grower, you know, 400 peaches at the same time is a lot of peaches. You're going to end up having to give most of those away. So what people recommend is that you can graft different varieties onto that peach tree to get a later crop and an earlier crop, or maybe a different peach, and you know, that way you have 2 different types of peaches. But for people that don't know how to graft, this is a really great thing, because then you can just put different varieties in the same hole, to the point where you'll have one section of the tree fruiting, you know, one section of the tree here fruiting and flowering, and then the next section, and then maybe this section does it, and then this section does it. So you get like this successive thing where you don't get all the fruit at the same time, especially in the apple trees case. You know, you can have apples as early as maybe even late July or something like that, and then you can have them well into the fall, you know, the end of October. So, you know, for apple trees, this works really well. I would rather have 4 apple trees that ripen at different periods than 1 apple tree that was just my favorite. You know what I mean? So this is just one way to do that if you don't know how to graft. But I'm even taking this a step further, because I have 4 different varieties here planted, but then I'm also grafting onto these different varieties. And so far, like I said, I've had pretty good success with this. You know, they're all flowering. Every single one of these trees is flowering. I don't even have this planting, by the way, in full sun. Maybe my apples will be a little smaller, but you know, all of them are flowering. So they're also on dwarfed rootstocks, so they could be much more vigorous, more long-lived if you put them on a faster growing rootstock like a standard. But I find this is quite good for something because you don't want, for something like this, because you don't want a lot of the growth to go into the middle. That's one of the pitfalls I want to talk to you guys about, is that when the growth goes in the middle, it kind of shades each other out. You may have problems with disease. You know, it's just not good for this middle area to be clogged up. So you need to really be paying attention to like pruning and making sure that the tree has the right shape. Each tree should kind of take up 1/4 of the section and grow outwards. You know, if I back up a little bit, you got this tree growing out that way, and then the tree closest to me growing out towards us, and then one here growing out to the right, and then the other one to the left, you know. So each tree gets their own location. As far as rootstock though, you could do any rootstock you want. It's just that I would recommend you make sure all the rootstocks are the same, because you want them to grow at the same vigor. The other thing I will mention is that when you're doing something like this, the tree, as an example, this tree right here has grown the least, and this is the tree that is the furthest away. It gets the least amount of light, just in terms of how the light goes around the property here. This one actually, I think, is shaded the most. So because of that, this one's actually smaller than the others, and that could cause a problem in the future. So you really need to be pruning your trees to kind of match the smaller, less vigorous tree, because you don't want the other ones getting larger than the smallest one. Otherwise you'll have a problem down the road. But other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy, and you know, I think it's just really interesting to me. So I did this after learning about this. I did it on a smaller scale here, and I did this in containers because a friend of mine had recommended this to me, and he said that he was doing this in containers and he had very good success with it. So I followed his lead and did that. So what I have now is 4 apple trees in a 25-gallon container. 4 apple trees in a 25-gallon container. Again, look at all these flowers. I mean, the flowers are kind of dead now, but you know, all of these are going to put out fruit for me. It's really in crazy abundance too. They grow exceptionally well in containers, I find. This one right here is this is an apricot here, and that's a pluot, and this here is a plum. So I have 3 different stone fruits, as you can see, in the same pot, all growing in their own direction away from each other. 3 different apple trees in a 15-gallon container. This right here is 2 pluots, I believe, in a 10-gallon container. Just planted that, just got those this year. You know, here's a planting I did recently as well. Last year I had 2 peaches. This is Indian Free Peach, and this is the Contender Peach here, both of which are fruiting for me. You can actually see the fruits right on in there. But those fruits are fruiting for me, and then I took those out of their pots, those 2 peaches, and joined them with an apricot here, and I believe this is a plum. So you can get really creative with this. I wouldn't recommend, for someone that is more of a novice pruner, I wouldn't recommend putting peaches with other fruits because peaches fruit in a different way than other stone fruits. But I would keep it, you know, I would keep the apples together, I would keep the pears together, and I would keep the stone fruits together. Just be making sure that they're all in the same rootstock or a similarly vigorous rootstock, and that you can essentially make sure that they're pruned in a way so that they're not shading each other out. They're all getting a sufficient amount of light, and you know, you're just taking care of your trees. Just wanted to do this quick video to show you guys that this is possible, and kind of show you guys, you know, the success that I've had thus far in the season. or years of me doing this now. Some of these trees are much older now, and most of them are now fruiting. And yeah, this is just very possible and a nice alternative for those of you that don't necessarily know how to graft or don't have access to scion wood. You guys can just do this, and that way you'll have fruit all season long. All right, so thanks for watching, guys. I'll be sure to give you guys an update on this particular topic down the road when lots of this stuff actually puts out fruit. So yeah, stay tuned, and I'll see you later. Take care, guys.